Hello class, so we're going to go ahead and look at section 7.4, which is the nth roots. Okay, we start out by looking at the volume of a sphere can be found by using the formula V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Find the radius of the sphere if the volume is 225 centimeters cubed. So the volume is, so I'm going to take this and plug it in for V. Okay, so I have 225 is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. And I want to find the radius. So I want to get r by itself. So the first thing I would do is I would get rid of this fraction. So in order to get rid of a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. That simplifies to 1. So if you take 3/4 times 225, you get 168.75 is equal to pi r cubed. Now I want to get r by itself, so I'm going to get rid of pi. So I would divide both sides by pi. Okay, and we're going to wait to type this into our calculator. And then I would have r cubed. Now I want to go ahead, I need to get r by itself. So I need to get rid of this cubed. Well, the way you get rid of something cubed is you take the cubed root. Okay, so r is equal to the cubed root of 168.75 over pi. And when you do that on your calculator, you'll get r is approximately 3.773 centimeters. Okay. So in this example, we use the cubed root to get rid of a cubed. We're going to talk about the 4th root, the 5th root, and then eventually the nth root, so we can deal with any exponent. So we have our powers. Let's go ahead and look at the first one. We have the powers. We have a squared is equal to 16. So the roots. Okay, one thing that we're going to point out is today we are only looking for the real roots. So no complex. Okay. So the roots for this one would be, well, if I would be A would be 4. Okay. So in words, the square root of 16 is 4. That is what that is saying. Now, if I wanted to take the square root of negative 16, okay, I would say that there is no real solution, okay, because it would be complex. So this is no real solution. The next one we're going to go ahead and look at is A cubed. So if I have A cubed is equal to 27, they would want to know, well, what's the cubed root of 27 to figure out what A is? Well, the cubed root of 27 is 3. So the cubed root of that. Now, the next one is a little bit tricky. So I give you the cubed root of the square root of negative 27. Well, this one is different. This is really the square root, so there was a 2 there. So it's even. So you can't take the square root or the nth root of something that has an even value. But you can do a negative when it is an odd value. So if I have 3, well, if I have negative 3, if it is negative 3, I would have negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. 9 times negative 3 will give me negative 27. So you can do it when it is an odd root. All right. The next one, in this case, A would equal the 4th root of 81. And if you go ahead and do that, you will also, in this case, get 3. So the words we would use is the 4th root of 81 is 3. Now, we are trying to take the 4th root of negative 81. Well, once again, it's an even value, so there is no real solutions. A to the 5th equals 32. So A would equal the 5th root of 32. And that would give me 2. So the 5th root of 32 is 2. So I hope you are also writing down the words that this means. And if I get to the answer, I would do, well, what is the 5th root of negative 32? Well, you would go ahead and it would be negative 2. And same idea. If I have negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 5 times, this will give me a positive 2. Sorry, this gives me a positive 4, right? 4 and 4 times negative 2. So this gives me 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times negative 2 gives me negative 32. So that's why you can have a negative value. Okay. So nth root. So if I have a to the nth equals b, then I can take the nth root. So whatever the exponent is, you can take that root in order to get your solution. So the nth root of b is equal to a. There it is in words. And then just a little reminder. Okay, we're going to write this out. If n is odd, can we do this? Yes, we can. Then the root exists, and your answer will be negative. And is negative. Now we're going to do the opposite. So if n is even, then there is no real root. Okay, so you can use NRS for no real solution, okay, for that. So we're going to go ahead and simplify. So number one, I need to simplify. So this is a square root. And before we even go ahead and do this, I just want to remind you that the square root of x is really the same as x to the 1/2 power. Okay, and also that the cubed root of x is really just x to the 1/3 power. And I could do this for any of them. So if I have the nth root of x, it's really x to the 1/n. Okay, so that will help us out in the future. Okay, so if I go ahead and look at this one, it's a square root of 25 times x to the 4th. So I'm going to just break it apart. Okay, well, this is going to give me 5. And I'm going to rewrite this. This is really x to the 4th to the 1/2 power. So it's 4 times 1/2, which gives me 2. So it's 5x squared. So there it is, simplified. So the rule is if you have a square root, you can think about it as dividing it by 2. If you have a cubed root, you can divide your exponents by 3. Okay, let's go ahead and look at example 2. We want to simplify this one. We have the square root here of y squared plus 2 to the 8th. So I would think about it as to the 8th to the 1/2. Well, I would say 1/2 times 8 is 4, so this will give me to the 4th. Okay, and since this is addition in here, I can't break it apart in any way, so there it is, simplified. If it was multiplication, we could simplify further. Okay, example 3. Now this one is the 5th root. Okay, so I'm going to break it apart. Remember, it's really like saying that it is to the 1/5 power. So in this case, well, I would say, well, the 5th root of 32, okay, is 2. And if you don't know how to find this on your calculator, if you have a TI-84, you would hit 5, and then you would go to Math. And then there's a thing that has X square root, okay, and then you would type in 32. And it should give you out 2. If you have just a basic scientific calculator, there's a sign that looks like X square root. So once again, you type 5, hit this key, and then 32. If you need help finding that, please let me know tomorrow in class. Okay, so the 5th root of 32 is 2, and then I would do, well, 15 times 1/5 gives me x to the 3rd. 20 times 1/5 gives me 4. So it's 2x to the 3rd, y to the 4th. Number 4 is the square root of -9. So this is really an even root because it's really a 2 there. We just usually don't write it. So since it is an even root, in this case, there is no real solution. Number 5, we go ahead and look at that one. It's the square root of 81, y to the 6th. So I would say, well, the square root of 81 is 9, and then it's y to the 6th. So 6 divided by 2 would give me 3. Number 6, it's the 6th root of 729. Okay, so that's going to give you, if you do that on your calculator, it gives you 3. Then it's x to the 30th, so I would take 30 divided by 6, which gives me 5. And y to the 18th divided by 6, 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you write it down. I'm going to go on to the back side, which is 4 more problems. If you also need a break, now would be a good time to take a break. But just make sure if you have any questions, you go ahead and write them down. Number 7, it's the 8th root of x to the 8th. So I'm just going to write this one out a little bit more. So it's x to the 8th, really to the 1/8. 8 times 1/8 is 1, so it's x to the 1st, so it is just x. Okay. Number 8. Okay, there's 2 parts. 81 times all of this. So I would do the 4th root of 81, okay, and then I would do the 4th root of a plus 1 to the 12th. So the 4th root of 81 would give us 8. Sorry, that gives me 3. That's 3. And then I would say, well, 12 divided by 4, that's going to give me 3. So a plus 1 to the 3rd. And once again, since there's addition, if there's addition or subtraction, can't break that apart any further. So there it is, simplified all the way. Number 9, square root. So the square root of 100 we know is 10. And then it's really x to the 10th divided by, well, this is a square root, so it's a 2. So divided by 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then number 10, very similar to number 8. So I would say, well, the square root of 64 is 8. Then I would say, well, 14 divided by 2 gives me 7. And I cannot break that up any further, so there's my answer. It is, if you can't see it, 8. Y plus 1 to the 7th. Let's go ahead and look at number 11. The distance of a planet is from the sun is a function of the length of its year. The formula, d equals the cubed root of 6t squared, where d is the distance of the planet from the sun in millions of miles, and t is the number of Earth days in the planet's years. If the length of a year on Mars is 682 Earth days, how far from the sun is Mars? So we need to figure out 682, which value is that? Well, d is the distance, and we're trying to find that. So this is what we're trying to find d. And t is the number of Earth days. Well, we know what t is. T is 687. So I'm going to plug that in. And it's 87 squared. So what I would do is simplify what is underneath the square root sign before I actually go ahead and do that. So if you go on your calculator and you take 687 and you square it, okay, I would get 6 times 471,969. Then if I take 6 times that number, I will get 2,831,814. Then I would go ahead and on my calculator take the cubed root of that value. If you take the cubed root of that value, you will get 141 point, and I'm going to write out the value on your calculator, and you should make sure you can do this on your calculator. This is what you'll get on your calculator. If you're not getting that, you need to ask me tomorrow. But what is the trick here? They're telling me the distance is in millions of miles. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in millions of miles. So I'm going to move it over 6 decimal places to represent millions. So the distance is 141,477,816 miles. That is the distance. And example 12, last one. The stone spheres of Costa Rica were made by forming granodite boulders into spheres. One of the stone spheres has a volume of about 113,097.34 inches cubed. We want to find what is the diameter of the stone sphere. Okay. Well, they give us the volume of a sphere. Here's our formula. Notice what they give us. You find the radius, but we want to find diameter. So we have to keep that in mind as we come to our answer. So volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. They tell us the volume. So my volume, 113,097.34. So we're going to solve this very similarly to how we did the very first problem at the top of the page. So I'm going to multiply by 3/4. Multiply by that reciprocal. And that's going to go ahead and give me 84,823.005 equals pi r cubed. Divide by pi. So r cubed is equal to that 84,823.005 all over pi. And then we take the cubed root on both sides. So r will be approximately, you type it in, on your calculator it'll be 30 point, and then a bunch of zeros. 6 zeros, and then a 4. So we're going to round it to the radius is 30. But remember, the problem doesn't want the radius, it wants the diameter. Remember, if you have a circle, this is your radius, but the whole way across is your diameter. So we just need to multiply it by 2. So 30 times 2 gives me 60, and my label for this would be 60 inches. Okay, so that will be it for the section 6.4 notes. If you have any questions, like I said, make sure you write them down. Otherwise, have a nice day, and I will see you tomorrow.